There is no show anywhere like it. It is the Gashouse Gang, KMOX's very own, with Bernie Miklasz, Kevin Wheeler, Matt Pauley. I'm Tom Ackerman. Matt coming to us from Dallas at the winter meetings. What's up, fellas? How we doing?
Doing well.
Doing great. I just want to know where Matt's cowboy hat is.
Yeah, well, that's coming. Just go to the gift shop there at the hotel. Bernie's got the Navy hat. It's Army-Navy week, of course.
That's right.
How you doing, Pally?
Doing good. I was happy Army won the other night, beat Tulane. But now my allegiance, of course, way back on the Naval Academy. So I'm doing good. Doing great, actually. Thank you.
If I buy a cowboy hat and wear it on this show, can I expense the cowboy hat?
That's a Tom question.
Okay. Yes, you can. I will approve that as long as Steve Moore approves my approval. If he approves my approval, then you're good.
You need to come back to town with some boots on, man. When I lived and worked in Dallas, the one thing I did was buy myself a couple of really good pair of boots.
There you go.
Of course, I never wore them once I returned to St. Louis, but that's beside the point.
That's right. Well, it's a great time to get everyone together. There's no doubt about it. We're going to be together all week with Paulie. He's going to be joining us from the winter meetings. I think we're going to work you pretty hard, pal. We're going to have you on every day from there, giving us the latest scoop. So we'll move people in and out of here, but Matt's going to be a mainstay for sure. Let's get right to it. I mean, there's a lot going on down there already. The buzz came out last night with Juan Soto, a 15-year, $765 million deal. It's the richest deal in the history of professional sports with the New York Mets. Matt, he is going from the Bronx to Queens. What's been the reaction in Dallas?
Yeah, I think everybody's glad it happened because it's an indication that things might actually start. Last year, nothing happened here at the winter meeting. So everybody was waiting on that. Now that happens, the rest of the dominoes can start to fall. Yeah, I tweeted this out last night. This is my favorite statistic about this. It's not a stat, but my favorite note. David Stearns ran the Brewers for 7 years. In his 7 years of running the Brewers, he spent $643.3 million for those 7 years worth of payroll, and he just more than did that in one single contract with the Mets. It's wild, the kind of money that's being thrown around.
Yeah, it's big money. I mean, Bernie, Mets were not going to let up until they got him. I mean, Cohen's got tons of money, and I watched some of these clips of Yankee fans who are like, Soto, you bum. Don't ever come back. He's going to take the money. Yeah. I mean, that's just the way it's set up today.
See, Soto is an interesting cat because one part about Steve Cohen, other than his money, is that, and he's one of the wealthiest people in America. He can spend whatever he wants. But, it isn't always about the top dollar. In this case, certainly it was. But Steve Cohen has got a personal touch. Like he invites potential free agents to his home, and they spend the whole evening, drinking good wine, having a wonderful meal, and talking about, well, here's what I'm going to do with the team. And guys that are considering things, who actually really want to know the people they work for, that has appeal. And Soto is that kind of guy. Like Soto felt kind of cold in San Diego, like he didn't really know anybody, like the owner. He wasn't sure what the future was going to bring in. And Hal Steinbrenner tried, but he's not exactly Mr. Warmth. Steve Cohen, in addition to his billions, is a dude that can really recruit people because of his personality. His personality is ideal for this because he's so smart and they respect him and they hear his plans and his commitment and they're like, wow, this would be the ideal place. So my favorite Soto stat is the first 5 years of this contract, including the signing bonus, he'll be paid $61 million a year. That's not bad. The Cardinals outfield right now for 2025, and they're all younger guys. Even if you include Brendan Donovan in that group, $10 million for the entire outfield. Soto's going to be making 61. Steve Cohen, way to go, man, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's in the National League, back in there and back in the NL East, Kevin. He's a tremendous player. I mean, there's no denying that. If Ohtani's number one, I think Soto is probably number two.
I don't think there's any doubt that he's in that conversation, right? But Ohtani's a unicorn. He's two all-stars in one. When he's healthy, he can be an all-star caliber starter and an MVP hitter. So, I mean, his AAV is higher because of that. But he took fewer years because, again, he's a little bit older. He's a guy that had some arm problems. But Soto is as close to this generation has to being a Ted Williams kind of hitter, right? I mean, nobody's ever going to match that. But he's as close to that in this era as there is. And at 26, he's a unicorn. I mean, like, this is what happens when you get to free agency at 26. Albert was 32 in his first year with the Angels. This is a whole different game. It's why you're getting 15 years. It's why you're getting that AAV. And by the way, I don't have a flag or anything to wave, but there's a lot of reaction. Like, how can anybody justify this? Guys, it's a free market, man. It's a free market. It's supply and demand. There's a low supply of players like Juan Soto. There's a high demand for players like Juan Soto. And when you get multiple big teams negotiating, bidding on a player, you're going to get this. This is the free market. This is what everybody loves. It's free market. It's capitalism. And yet as soon as it's in sports, it's like, oh, no, we need to have a salary cap. That's not right. Nobody should make that. Hey, I'll tell you this, at least compared to billionaires who don't pay taxes on jack squat, Juan Soto is going to pay probably more than half of that to the government. So let's stop complaining. Let's stop whining about nobody's worth that. You know what? Look, we get it. They're athletes. They're entertainers. But that's the world, man. Tom Cruise makes $50 million for a movie to pretend to be a spy. This guy's actually doing the work, and he's been doing it his whole life. He's earned it. Let's go.
Yeah, sure. Matt, I never understood that either. First of all, Steve Cohen doesn't have to justify anything.
No.
If he would have given him $1 billion, just straight up $1 billion. Okay, fine. It's his money. He runs the franchise, whatever he wants. He's got plenty of money, more than most people. So, well, I'm not sure why in some circles, like the owners, it's okay. It's okay for them to basically have automatic profits and operating revenue and their franchise value escalate incredibly over a period of time. That's okay. Nobody raises Cain about that. But you let a player get paid, oh boy.
Not allowed.
I don't get it.
It's one of the weirdest things that exist in sports for fans because fans never go after owners, but they go after players. Owners are billionaires. Players are millionaires. Not that you're really probably close to any of them, but if you're going to side with one of them, if you want to side with the underdog in that situation, you side with the players.
But let's also look at it this way. If they don't pay the player that money, then the guy keeps it. If the players aren't getting the money, right, the owner just keeps it. Because we get things like this, and I'm not trying to pick on you, Tom, but it's not how it works. The ticket prices and all that stuff, the TV deals, they're all supply and demand. If the demand goes down, the price will go down. Player salaries do not dictate ticket prices. And if you want an example of how it can work, look at the NHL. The NHL put in a cap. They blew out a year to get a salary cap. You know what happened? Do you guys remember? Ticket prices went up, even though salaries went down. The league spent less money on players and charged more for tickets.
Right.
It doesn't work that way. If you want ticket prices to come down, stop buying them. The prices will come down.
And just so our radio listeners are clear, he's not referring to me. He's referring to Tom.
Right.
Webster,
sorry.
Yeah. Who just said keep pricing out the fans.
Oh yeah.
I
don't think that's
I got
happening,
it.
Tom.
Look,
all due respect, man. That's not happening.
Here's a legitimate concern for a Cardinals fan, and I'll throw it to Bernie first on this, is when are the Cardinals ever going to be able to get a player like this again?
Man.
Albert Pujols left in free agency. That was a long time ago. They've not been a player for any of these big names, and they probably never will be, according to Cardinals fans and maybe us too. I mean, look, it doesn't guarantee. I will say this, Bernie, before I toss it to you. Sure, throwing a $400, $500, $600 million payroll doesn't guarantee championships. The Yankees haven't won since 2009. The Mets haven't won since 86. You just go right down the line. The Dodgers just won, but before that, they won a half a World Series in 20. And before that, it was 88. So, spending doesn't always do it.
No, and one thing about the Cardinals, they get stuck in overpaying for middle-level talent. And that's the thing that has bothered me. It isn't so much – I don't expect them to be in the hunt for top tier free agents. Why? Because they really never have been. I know Bill DeWitt tried. I know they made a pretty aggressive run at David Price. They really tried hard to keep Jason Hayward. Those are the only two free agents. Like what I'm talking about at the time were considered top tier free agents. They're the only two guys that they even got into the discussions with, and they didn't sign either one of them. The problem for the Cardinals is that they've got to be, if they're not going to go for top tier free agents, they have to be consistently good in terms of what they spend on middle tier, second tier, third tier free agents. And that's where they've made a tremendous amount of mistakes. And that's their problem. And letting the farm system kind of wither, now that's going to be fixed. But the answer is, I don't think we'll see this because I don't think Bill DeWitt will ever really play with that the big boy crowd at the top of the free agent bracket. I just don't see it. Why do you think he hired Chaim Bloom? I mean, the fact that he hired Chaim Bloom, the Tampa Bay model, the Chaim Bloom who developed one of the top 3 or 4 farm systems in Boston, and Rob Cerfolio's coming from Cleveland. They're hiring other guys from Cleveland, a team that does remarkably well for relatively modest payrolls. That's Bill DeWitt confirming who he is. We already know who he is. Their greatest success was attained when they had a thriving draft development and farm system where they had all the tools, everything they needed to keep that thriving. He wants to get back to that. Chaim Bloom is that guy. And I'm going to say this. Chaim Bloom is about as important as any free agent player the Cardinals could sign because of what he means to the future of the organization.
Let's go around the horn on this. Matt, your thoughts on that as well, as it relates to the Cardinals and their future with regard to money spent and how they're structuring themselves now.
Yeah, I have a hard time believing, kind of like Bernie said, I have a hard time believing that they're ever going to be signing the Juan Sotos of the world. But that being said, if they start developing their talent that can perform at a pretty high level, if they stop needing to be forced to sign the Kyle Gibsons and the Lance Lynn's of the world, you can take that money and you can, if they're going to spend in free agency, even if it's not on a Juan Soto, I would like them to spend on an all-star caliber player, and you do that by having the rest of your roster being produced by your minor league system.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, look, we saw them when they were winning titles, right? You had some high-end salaries. You had some guys at the top end of the spectrum making good money, but the roster was rounded out by the guys you developed from within. The 2011 team is like that. Even the early 2000s team before the 06 championship, you had a lot of star players there that were top of the market for that time, but they were also surrounded by the other players doing the side jobs for, low-end salaries because you had young guys in development.
Tom, can I throw one more in here real quick because it's related? The other thing for the challenge for the Cardinals, it's a huge challenge that they have to become a destination franchise. In other words, even if they were inclined to go after top-level free agents, right? Top-level free agents have all kinds of great choices. And there was a point in time where a Mark McGwire, baseball heaven, what he called, Jim Edmonds wanted to be here. All these guys wanted to be here. And you actually signed for a discounted price. Oh, they got plenty of money, but a discounted price. Scott Rowland wanted to be here, on and on and on and on, right? I'm not trying to be a jerk, but right now the Cardinals are not a destination franchise. They can become that again, but it's to me, you can't even talk about it until the Cardinals, not only want to spend the money at the highest level on an individual player, but B, the individual player who's going to have some wonderful choices looks at St. Louis and says, yeah, that's where I want to be. They've just lost that luster at least for now, and they've got to find a way to get that back. And that's why it's really important the next several years of sort of rebranding the team you have and making it more appealing to outside players who maybe have an option of coming here.
It's the Gashouse gang from KMOX with Kevin Wheeler, Matt Pauley at the winter meetings in Dallas, and Bernie Miklas. I'm Tom Ackerman. We're sponsored by Saliga Heating and Cooling, an American Standard heating and air conditioning dealer. Bernie, tell us about our sponsor.
I'm very delighted to do so. Yeah, Saliga Heating and Cooling's been serving St. Louis family since 1927. I always say, man, that's the 27 Yankees, right? Gehrig and Ruth were playing, and a Saliga truck was out there trying to help St. Louis families with their heating and cooling. I love that. And this proud independent American Standard heating and air conditioning dealer's got that track record to stand on. Yeah, you ain't thriving in 2024 after you opened in 1927 unless you're really outstanding at what you do, and unless you've built up that trust and that reputation for being honest and for great service and professionalism, everything else that we could talk about. Also, if you're going to take a look at Saliga Heating and Cooling, take a look at the Priority Club. We're members in the Miklas home. We have been for years and years and years. It's a maintenance program that gives you peace of mind. It doesn't cost all that much. And sometimes they can detect minor problems before they become major repair bills. And they also have that American Standard equipment if you need it. So anyway, go to SaligaHeatingandCooling.com for all the services that are available. They also have financing options available to you, subject to credit approval. It's Saliga Heating and Cooling, 314-481-7333.
Let's go back to the MLB winter meetings. The lobby of that Dallas hotel is buzzing right now, I'm sure, with all kinds of activity. And Matt, what is the buzz when it comes to the Soto deal and how this affects the trade market? And we can, of course, apply this to the Cardinals, who will be in discussions among teams.
Yeah, I think the feeling is, okay, game is on now, because that first domino. Now a bunch of second dominoes get to start falling all across the industry. Everybody was waiting for that. There were a lot of teams. Yeah, I read something yesterday about Toronto, how Toronto was putting everything on hold because they wanted to put their best effort towards Soto, and they basically weren't talking with anybody else. So now they've got some work to do. I think this impacts the Cardinals the most in the sense that Bregman probably doesn't go to the Yankees now, or Bregman may be more likely to go to the Yankees now. He probably doesn't go there if the Yankees would have signed Soto. So does Arenado, does the chance of him ending up in New York with the Yankees, is that lesser now because of this? I think so. So there's a lot of things that are going to be impacted by this Soto deal.
I think Arenado wants to go to the Dodgers, doesn't he? He doesn't want to go to Canada. I mean, right?
I don't think he would take a trade to Toronto.
You know, with the Tom, real quick, like, are those people in Toronto nuts? Like, why would what? Like, what? They were holding out for the sake that Juan Soto may decide to go to Toronto. What? Because he's a tragically hip fan? What? Because he's always admired the late great Leonard Cohen, right? What? You know, his favorite sports franchise anywhere in the world are the Toronto Maple Leafs. He likes the CFL. Like, what in the world did they even think that he would entertain the Toronto Blue Jays for 1 minute about going there?
It's
right?
funny. I mean, you know, look, great organization, fun experience and all that stuff. But come on, man, we're talking about this free agent market. I mean, he's going for the big spot and he goes to the New York Mets. Kevin, let me ask you about Arenado, because Matt made a good point there about, and he did it this morning on KMOX, about the Yankees probably hunting for some big game here. I mean, they want somebody big to put it third. So what does that open up for Arenado?
Well, I think, you know, the Soto thing just like kickstarts everything, right? So the Yankees losing out on him means they're probably in on Santander, means they're probably in on Bregman, means they're in on other big name bats that are going to be, you know, in this marketplace. And that all ties together with the Cards, because at some point somebody's going to get left standing and not get what they want. And that's where your opportunity can come in if you're the Cardinals to maybe be opportunistic. You know, so do the Yankees want Nolan Arenado? Maybe they need to replace power and they need a left-handed bat. They're very right-handed in a ballpark that favors left-handed hitters. So they need, like, a guy like Santander makes a lot of sense if they're going to use him. Now, the problem with that, though, is how many guys can you have that might be DHs in 2 years? Because you still got Giancarlo Stanton. And Santander's fine in the outfield for now. And I guess in Yankee Stadium and right field, you're not really patrolling a lot of space. But the point is that this kicks off just an avalanche of things, right? Every one of them connected to the other. What happens to Houston if Bregman leaves and signs with New York? Where are they going to pursue? Because they're going to need a third baseman. And I think that's where the Cardinals can fit into this, is figuring out where all the pieces fall, and then figuring out where your assets fit. And the biggest one we've been talking about is Arenado, and we don't know exactly which teams he'd approve a deal to. We're pretty clear on the Dodgers, but I'm not so sure the Dodgers are that clear, right? I mean, they have Max Muncy, who's still a really good hitter who plays third. They have the option of playing Mookie Betts anywhere. They just signed Michael Conforto for an outfield spot. What are they going to do with Gavin Lux? Are they going to move Max Muncy to second base to accommodate Nolan Arenado? Like, there's a lot of moving pieces to all of that, which makes it less than an automatic, versus teams like Boston, Houston, New York, where if they lose out on Bregman, the next best third baseman is Nolan. And we don't know where he would be willing to go, but I think that's where this gets into impacting the Cardinals. Is this all impacts the Bregman marketplace, and that's where you probably have your fit with Nolan, depending on where he ends up.
Yeah, and Matt, I do wonder what the Phillies are going to do to respond to an NL East foe grabbing Soto. You know.
Yeah, and they want to move Alec Boehm off of third, so not that they want him out of there completely. So that plays into this as well. When we talk about the Dodgers, there were a lot of reports out there that the Dodgers wanted Willy Adames and that Adames chose San Francisco over Los Angeles. So if that's true, that tells you that the Dodgers are willing to make some moves on the infield.
Bernie,
I read a piece this morning or late last night on The Athletic. Stephen Nesbitt, who's a terrific baseball writer, well informed. So what I'm saying is I really respect his opinion. He did a piece like, okay, what next for the 7 teams that were at least trying to get Soto? Where do they go to now? Where do they turn to now? And I found it interesting, and I'm not questioning him. I'm actually highlighting it. He didn't have Arenado in any of the scenarios for the other teams. Like, where do they turn? What's the plan now? Who will they pursue? His name wasn't even mentioned. My point is, I think, listen, I'm going to repeat what we already know. I think it's a very limited market.
Yep.
My concern is that it might be even more limited than we realize.
Yeah.
Which means, at least in theory, slightly better chance Arenado stays. I don't know. But I don't think there's not a great demand for him. That's for sure.
No, that's why he's at the tail end of all this, right? If he was that in demand, he would be at the front of this. But it's clear that he's kind of a fallback. And look, Buster Olney, I think, tweeted about it this weekend that the Dodgers might have some interest in Arenado, but they're going to want the Cardinals to take on a contract, maybe take on Chris Taylor and the $17 million that he's guaranteed for this season's salary and a buyout to get out of next season's salary. But then this gets back to the same thing that we've been trying to kick around. You're probably not going to accomplish both of the things you want to in dealing Arenado. You're probably not going to shed big money and get something you want. It's probably one or the other. You eat money and you get a better return, or you accept that you're not going to get a great return and give up as much money as you can.
Matt, what's the buzz on Eric Fetty down there in Dallas?
Not much being said about him. I think the Cardinals are really looking to keep him at this point. They would have to be blown away by an offer. His name is not being brought up a lot right now.
It's interesting. Yeah, it is very interesting. Given the way the cost of starting pitching has been this winter, and it's only going to go up next winter. I know John Mozeliak, he told Tom Ackerman yesterday on Sports on a Sunday Morning that, he thinks the Cardinals can be better than expected. He doesn't come right out and say they can be a contender, but I think he's maybe talking himself into that direction. And if the division's bad and all of that, but wow, when you have tradable assets, and you want to replenish your young talent base as much as possible, you got to look really hard about moving a couple of highly tradable free agents, Helsley and Fetty, before they walk away. That's just I'm pragmatic. Maybe John Mozeliak thinks, we still have to take a shot at this. I hope he's right. I sincerely hope that the Cardinals are a lot better than we think they're going to be. I hope he's validated. But it seems like for a team in the situation they're in, it seems like cashing in a couple of guys would have a pretty big trade market and trade value. That seems to me to be the way to go. But who am I? Nobody, basically. So we'll see.
With Bernie Miklasz, Matt Pauley at the winter meetings in Dallas, Kevin Wheeler, I'm Tom Ackerman. This is the Gashouse gang from KMOX. Just to expand on the topic of the Cardinals being competitive in the NL Central, Kevin, let me ask you, I heard Mozeliak also in our interview yesterday tell me that he thinks that because he likes the rotation, he likes the bullpen, which did get my mind moving. Maybe they aren't moving Helsley. I mean, maybe they're set.
Mm-hmm.
They want to keep Helsley on the back end. I mean, your thoughts on that? Bernie was talking about it earlier.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's a scenario where you could be in this. There's no reason why we would sit here today and say they're done. But what I'm confused by is the back and forth on the messaging, right? Because yesterday I listened to Mo on with you on Sports on a Sunday, and he said again, they're trying to create opportunities for young players. How are you doing that if you're not trading anybody? There's no room at the inn, guys. We're in the Christmas season. There's no room at the inn. If Nolan Arenado is still there, if Eric Betty is still there, if Steven Matz is still there, if Ryan Helsley's, we're not creating any opportunities for any young players to start the year. Now, we know over the course of the year, people are going to get hurt. They're going to shuttle in and out, but that's not really what I've taken from those messages over the last couple of months. When we say we're going to create opportunities for young players, to me, if you're not moving these guys, then where's the opportunity?
I'm going to repeat a stat I had. I might have, when we were talking with Matt and Paulie on Friday, I think I put that out there. I'm going to repeat it. The Cardinals actually started this play the young players thing last year. This isn't a new thing. It may be a new kind of marketing pitch, but it actually started last year. Among their position players, the Cardinals position players age 25 or younger, the Cardinals from that age group, the most games, the most plate appearances of any team in the major leagues. They're all still here. So what we're talking about really is not panicking if Gorman gets off to a slow start, not panicking if Walker gets off to a slow start, keeping them in the lineup the entire season. That's basically what we're talking about here. There really are there are not a bunch of opportunities. There just aren't. And with pitching, unless they move a couple of people to Matt Pauley, so where are the spots that would be filled by young pitchers?
Only in the bullpen. There's spots there, but not in the rotation. They have to move somebody to even create a spot for Michael McGreevy, who clearly earned it with what he did down the stretch of the season last year. It just feels like, to me, giving an opportunity to young players, giving runway to young players, whatever terms that's been used so far this offseason, really is just code word for Jordan Walker and Nolan Gorman are going to be in the lineup every single day, no matter what.
Then just say that.
Say that is right.
We could just say that because
I think so. Well, Mozeliak said it a little bit yesterday, but I think they also throw that out there. We're going to be competitive in the NL Central because they don't want to send the narrative out there that they're tearing this thing down. They want to let people know, still come to the ballpark. It's going to be fun. It's going to be exciting. We got some talent. And if they all click, we could be dangerous. Is kind of what they're trying to tell everybody. Matt, I see that Jeff Passan reporting that the Phillies have come to an agreement with Jordan Romano, the closer, who was non-tendered by Toronto. So, just another free agent grabbed out there and another team off of the Helsley trade talks, I guess. So,
who knows with that Phillies bullpen, though? They collect former closers and put them into non-closers roles. So, I don't know for sure what they're going to do with him, but I give the Phillies a lot of credit for the way they build their bullpen because they get a lot of high leverage arms in there.
Yeah, big on strikeouts. Yeah, Dave Dombrowski loves it's funny because it's the one thing that they failed to do in Detroit. They never fixed the bullpen. They never got the big swing and miss arms, and you could tell he learned from that because he got to Boston and he got to Philly, and when he got to those spots, he loaded up on the pen, and especially in Philly, they load up on high velo swing and miss guys.
And our listener just checking in, did Jordan Romano get signed? Yes. It's a 1-year agreement pending the outcome of a physical with the Phillies. That's according to Jeff Passan and others, just busting that one out here a few moments ago. Matt, what about, going back to the rotation? How do you see this rotation let's be honest, in 2025, if you were to envision a 5-man rotation, who gets moved out, who gets moved up, how does it look? Putting you on the spot here. Starting opening day 2025.
Gray, Fetty, Palante, 1, 2, 3. I think Matz gets traded, so I'm not including him. I don't think Michaelis gets traded. So Michaelis and then McGreevy. I think that's the 5 that to start the year, with Quinn Matthews not far behind.
Yeah, he's tremendous. And, Bernie, I think Matz is going to be traded. I don't know where he's going to go and what kind of return you can get for him.
Well, that's right. I think if you just offload the salary and you just take the attitude that, you'll take a lottery ticket prospect, someone that is down an A ball now, but might turn into something really big. Who knows? But I think by offloading his salary, was it $12.5 million? You also clear a spot you clear the runway. I have to use the appropriate term.
Right.
You clear the runway in your rotation for another young arm to sort of glide down that runway and get in line and be ready to take off and join that rotation. So, so it makes a lot of sense in the world.
Roy really asking about a package there of Helsley and Fetty. Do you package players, Kevin? Do you see them doing that?
Typically, no. I mean, typically you're better off selling separately. It depends though, right? Like if it's say the Phillies and they're like, we really want both of those guys and we'll give you Aiden Miller, top 25 prospect who plays third and short with power. Well, then, okay, right. That's the kind of thing you do. But typically when you're packaging both, because both of those guys have value on their own. And I'm not sure that it helps to put them together unless you're thinking that there's one team that's like, we need a closer and we want a starter and we'll give you like an elite A-level prospect. If you could do that, wonderful. But I think it's probably not that likely.
Yeah, I think you package players to try to get a not so desirable player into a trade.
Sure, right.
If you want to trade Ryan Helsley and Miles Michaelis is willing to accept a trade somewhere and you can package him along with Helsley, then that makes sense. But as we've said so often on this show, Helsley and Fetty are the two trade, guys that you could trade that are going to bring you the most. I feel like you lose some value by putting those two together.
Maybe that's a way to offload Arenado, package him with one of those two pitchers.
Yep.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, Tom.
The Gashouse Gang, KMOX, and we're sponsored by Saliga Heating and Cooling, an American Standard heating and air conditioning dealer. Bernie, what a great sponsor that's come in for us.
Yeah, with Dan Saliga, it's a 4th generation owner operator of the family business, and I love the fact that generations of St. Louis families have been taken care of by 4 generations of Saligas. I mean, it's all been this continuous thing where it's like a St. Louis story. I mean, I just love it, right? Just knowing all these St. Louis families and the Saliga family have been teaming up going back to 1927. And so I come from a family where there was a family business. I worked in the family business. I really do believe that when your name is on the business, it's on the trucks, it's displayed everywhere, all your advertising, Saliga, Saliga, Saliga. I think it really does mean more because that's your blood, that's your family. That's your heritage, right? And you want to uphold that impeccable reputation that the Saliga family has built through all these decades. And I know that sounds corny, but I absolutely believe that's true. And that's why their clients, like the Miklas family, will benefit from this independent American Standard heating and air conditioning dealer. Consider becoming a member of the Priority Club. You can find out more about that. It's worth it. We're members. You can go to SaligaHeatingandCooling.com. If you have an emergency, you call them by all means. And remember, they have the best equipment out there that they can give you to fix the problem. If it comes to that, an American Standard heating and air conditioning American Standard heating and air conditioning equipment. Sorry about that. They do a lot of other things too, but that's why I think you should just go to SaligaHeatingandCooling.com to see all the services. Things you probably didn't expect to see on the list, they can do. And don't forget, financing options are available, subject to credit approval. Go to SaligaHeatingandCooling.com.
That is Bernie Miklas, who is a must follow on YouTube at The Bernie Show. He always has great videos going out there. And while you're there, you should subscribe to KMOX Sports. We are picking up some steam as well with all of these episodes of the Gashouse Gang. Matt Pauley is in Dallas at the winter meetings with Kevin Wheeler. I'm Tom Ackerman. Matt, what else is happening up there in terms of free agency buzz? What is Pete Alonso's latest status? What are you hearing about that?
I haven't heard a word. His name has not been mentioned a single time in what I've heard. That's a really interesting name that you bring up, because for a guy who can produce the way he can produce, hit the home runs that he can hit, it just feels like he is a complete afterthought. Maybe it's the first. I haven't heard Christian Walker's name a single time either. So I don't. Maybe now that the Soto thing happens, we start hearing more about that. And there's been some guys that are coming off the board, but there's some household names out there that just quite honestly, nothing is being said about them right now.
Alonso, at least, playing on the big stage in New York won't bother him. He loves it. I think the Yankees ought to take a look at him. And the media that cover the Yankees continue to say, they need infield corners, first and third, move Chisholm to second. So that could be a destination in theory for an Arenado. Who knows?
Yeah.
It's the Yankees are a really interesting situation right now. They could go in a number of directions, but boy, they're going to be taking a beating from their fans, though. They really are.
Yeah. And by the way, I bet their response is making 2 or 3 moves, not just one, right? Maybe it's adding a guy like Christian Walker at first base and Santander in the outfield and a pitcher. I mean, they have the flexibility to do any of those things that they want to. And maybe it's to lean in and say, we're going to get better defensively at third. We'll make some kind of deal for Arenado. We'll sign Santander, and then they'll move somebody else over to first base. They've got options. I mean, they got DJ LeMahieu still under contract. I'm a nerd, right? But I'm a fan of this kid they called up last year named Ben Rice. That dude's hit like 38 home runs at AAA the last 2 years with a high walk rate. Give him a look, man. I mean, you've got a loaded lineup. Go get something else. So here's the plan: trade for Nolan Arenado, and then play the kid and go sign Santander, and the Cardinals can get what they want, and the Yankees can get what they want. I'm here for everyone.
The Yankees have got to find some protection for Judge. That's going to be the biggest thing here.
Yeah.
That's going to be the biggest impact on the Yankees not having Soto.
Yep.
Tom Ackerman, the heck with this Juan Soto stuff. The biggest free agent signing over the weekend.
Tyler
O'Neill.
Tyler O'Neill, baby, $49.5 million. My brother, who's an avid Orioles fan, he said, wow, I'm excited by this. And I said, well, expect some injuries, expect some downtime. But when he's healthy, hell yeah, he'll be an asset to the Orioles.
O'Neill, man, when he gets it going, look out. He'll hammer.
They're even moving the left field fences in for him. So watch out.
That's right. I worry wherever Paul Goldschmidt goes, he's going to hit 40 bombs, and get back to his MVP.
By the way, he could be a Yankee.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
They do tend to like first basemen that can play some defense.
Yeah, it absolutely could well be. Matt, what do you got coming up from the winter meetings tonight? Sports Open Line from 6 to 8.
Yeah, we'll see who we might wrangle in. Claves and Ricky will make an appearance tonight, and we'll be coming up, Ollie will talk this afternoon about 3. I'll play some of that audio. I'll be coming right off of Mo's. There's Claves right there.
Hi, Claves.
Hey, man, what's up?
Mo will talk this evening in his suite, so we'll react to what he has to say as well. So, we're figuring it out as it goes along.
Outstanding. Well, we look forward to hearing it. We'll get with you tomorrow. We'll get with you tomorrow and be right back with it. The Gashouse Gang right here from KMOX.